Hi, today we're talking about Skinner and his article, Why I'm Not a Cognitive Psychologist. He argues against how fictitious it is, how really it's just not necessary when you have his situation in place, that because you can really see all you need on the outside. You don't need that extra layer of the mind. And he actually considers it dangerous to add that on. And so he argues with how the Londoners are frustrated, quote unquote, but they're not really frustrated. They just want jobs. And since they can't get jobs, they resort to crime. And he mentions how pigeons are trained to react to white, but they're not really learning the shade of white. It's not this little man checking off a box that says this is white and then go from there. I don't really disagree with this, but I don't really agree with it either, because I think he lays just way too into cognitive psychology. I think cognitive psychology does have a place. It is not the same place as where Skinner is, and I think Pinker's use of robots and everything kind of show what that place is. It's not about showing the reactions, it's about showing what allowed those reactions to occur. It's about this, what was going on in the mind behind the scenes, and I think that's absolutely crucial. And I noticed that Pinker argues that there's no proof of rules, and this, I don't think this was a thing when he was alive, but Nicaraguan Sign Language, I think, shows that there are some rules in place, or at least rules can be created, because there was no place for association there. There wasn't, a Nicaraguan Sign Language is unique compared to other languages. It probably takes stuff from the local dialects, but it's not necessarily just derived from it. It's its own thing. And so I really do think Skinner makes some good points. I don't think cognitive psychology is the end-all be-all, but I also think that it absolutely has a place in the psychological field. And I think Skinner has a place in the psychological field. And I don't think it's being wishy-washy. I think it's just seeing that these aren't mutually exclusive. And that's where I stand. For the reflection part of the discussion, I'm going to talk about when I took a class called Good and Evil, East and West as a gen ed, and it was about reading stories where you read stories from Western Europe to all the way over to Japan, and just what the concept of good and evil was as you kind of went from west to east. And I actually think it's pretty straightforward what Skinner would say to this, especially because of what he talks about and how gender is dealt with in the actual reading, where it's as you grow up, they tell you what this is, and as you get older, it becomes more nuanced, and then it kind of becomes this identity. And it certainly falls into what is good and evil. And you can see that where certain cultures value different things. A child grows up, a mother says no to that, a father says yes to that, so on and so forth. And then you have an adult with a very clear view of what the concept of good and evil is by what people have told around him, by what people have taught to him, and how then he reacts to that. So Skinner's, for that, is reaction to that I think is pretty straightforward, but still interesting that it can go as far as good and evil.